In nearly 5 Mad Max movies that have been released, we've got to see some psycho guys that Max has faced. Each of them was evil and unique in its own way, so we will compile the list of the top 5 villains from the Mad Max universe. Stick till the end, as some characters and their stories may surprise you. So without further ado, let's get to villain number 5. The list starts with the villain from the very first movie, the Toe Cutter. As intimidating as his name sounds, he was just as menacing in his actions. He crossed paths with Max after learning that his friend, the so-called Knight Rider, had been killed by one of the cops, specifically by Max. Knight Rider was a member of Toe Cutter's gang, so it wasn't hard for him to gather the crew to avenge his death. From start to finish, we witnessed Toe Cutter's maniacal behavior. It's rare to find a scene where he acts like a normal human being. Most of the time, he is either behaving like an animal or exhibiting total lunacy. Ultimately, it was his actions that led to the death of Max's best friend, and tragically, his wife and son. It's these actions that contribute to Max's descent into madness as we know him. If you thought Rictus from Fury Road was scary, wait until you hear about his brother Scrotus, the main antagonist in the Mad Max game. Scrotus is the only villain on this list that comes from the game. He is one of Immortan Joe's sons, whom you may remember from Fury Road. In fact, he is the only son who is neither dumb nor disabled. Instead, he is very strong and smart. It was his impressive physique that almost led him to kill Max on a couple of occasions, as well as his reputation, which caused problems for Max as his gangs pursued him throughout the story. Now, I won't reveal any further events of the game as Scrotus is rumored to appear in upcoming Mad Max movies. In the Furiosa poster, there is a huge figure who could be either Scrotus or his brother Rictus, but let's wait to find out. Portrayed by the late Tina Turner, Aunty Entity stands out as the most unique villain on this list. She was the ruthless founder of a civilization known as Bartertown. She built it to restore trade and offer hope for the future, unlike other villains who simply seek to dominate the wasteland. You might argue that she wasn't much of a villain. Well, while she wasn't as mad as some other villains on this list, she wielded considerable power as the leader of a town. She was the first villain in the Mad Max universe to lead not just a gang, but a mini-civilization. Additionally, she displayed huge intelligence, betraying her allies and successfully negotiating to reclaim power. In her final pursuit of Max, we witnessed the formidable strength of her vehicles, particularly when compared to the vehicles in Mad Max 2, the events of which occurred approximately 15 years earlier. And speaking of Mad Max 2, let's continue with the main antagonist from that movie. Thanks for watching so far. Now, this guy was a madman. Imagine Toe Cutter, but on steroids, dark voice, and a hockey mask to hide a burned face. Unlike Toe Cutter, who led a relatively small bike gang, Lord Humongous led an army comprised of ex-police officers, ex-military, skinheads, and so on. Not much is said about Humongous's origin, except that he had been some kind of military man who'd been in an accident that led to facial and head burns. His military background explains his capability to organize such a diverse group of people into a large gang. In the movie, he is portrayed as a merciless tyrant, known for his brutality and willingness to torture those who oppose him. We can see his brute strength as he was able to choke another guy from his gang. He also demonstrated precision with both bullets and manual weapons. This solidifies Lord Humongous's position as the second-ranking villain on our list. And the first place goes to the main antagonist from Fury Road. Yup, it's Immortan Joe. Thanks to the comics, he is a villain with the deepest background story of them all. I won't reveal too many details from the comics in case you want to read it, but I will share that in his younger years when the apocalypse started, he grew his gang to a larger scale than the one Lord Humongous had. Similar to Humongous, his background is military, and that's where his old nickname Colonel Joe came from. He wasn't always the leader of the Citadel that we know from Fury Road. He learned about it from another antagonist we know from the movie, the People Eater. Interestingly, in the comics, Colonel Joe rescued him from the rogue cops that appear in Mad Max 1, Roop and Charlie, who were Max's co-workers. In exchange for his life, the People Eater told him about massive stone pillars sitting on a lake of fresh water. The only problem? The enemy gang who already inhabited it. This event is where Colonel Joe acquired his new name. After days of fighting for those stone pillars, his people saw him sneaking and killing the enemy gang. He gained a godlike reputation in their minds, and thus they called him Immortan Joe. Not only that, but he also made himself into a divine figure for the War Boys, who regard him as a god, leading them to an afterlife in Valhalla. These fanatics can be seen worshipping V8, which shows the cult that Joe made of himself. The stone pillars he rebuilt and named Citadel, while the nearby oil refinery he gave to the People Eater and named Gastown. The rest of the story you probably know from Fury Road. Do you agree with our list? Let us know in the comments how you would categorize Mad Max villains differently. Thanks for watching and please subscribe.